We are going to have 5, 7 million refugees. This is the biggest migration crisis in Europe after the Second World War. Remember the Mediterranean crisis in 2015, where we had so many problems? 300,000, 400,000 were coming into Europe every month. 300,000 refugees came to Warsaw in 2 weeks. That's the magnitude of the problem. So we need a system. We need the European Union, we need the UN system to actually be in here and start helping us out in a way which is much more synchronized, which is much more structured. For example, all my psychologists now who work in Warsaw are now helping the refugees. I can do it for a week, for 2, but I cannot keep my yes, I cannot leave my children without support.
And is there a danger that actually, I'm not saying the atmosphere will turn, but it will become very difficult because, of course, Polish people have been so generous. And that's, of course, their automatic reaction. But if it impacts their lives 6 months later or a year down the line, what happens then? Well,
we are prepared to help. We are going to do everything to help. 4,000 kids are already in our schools. And we are going to do everything for the Ukrainians to feel at home. But if there is no synchronized reaction from the European Union, also from Great Britain, I mean, Boris Johnson promised things, and now red tape takes ages. And he said himself that he has to rely on the non-governmental organizations. This is not serious. We need a relocation scheme in the European Union and in the world. I've talked to Justin Trudeau, who was in Warsaw just a few days ago, and Canada is also willing to welcome people. And, the United Nations and the EU have a system which is called a cluster system. It works like like Lego bricks. A different agenda of the UN is responsible for water and sanitation. Different one sets up reception centers. Different one gives chip cards to refugees so that they can buy things on their own. A different one brings in teachers and interpreters. That's what we need.
I'm interested in what you're saying about Boris Johnson because, of course, this new scheme that's been announced for the UK means that people have to apply to have a Ukrainian family either through a charity or indeed individually, and then the government steps in. Is that feasible, do you think, for a large number of refugees?
Of course not. And we do not have time to waste. I mean, those kids are on our border and they're freezing and they're traumatized by war, and sometimes they're even lone kids crossing the border. We do not have time for that.
And I want just very briefly, I just wonder if you think, I mean, Lewis Gooder was positing there the idea that it is a kind of reshaping of Europe, that a further integration of Europe. Do you think that's what's going to happen?
But it has to be said, Ukrainians are fighting for our freedom, for the stability of the transatlantic alliance. We have our duty. I've received phone calls from Ukrainians fighting who say, you are taking care of our kids and children, and we can fight for our own freedom. So we all have a responsibility, and we need to do that. We need financing, we need the system in place, and by the way, those finances cannot just go to the central government. They are needed here for the non-governmental organizations and for the local government.